In section 1.2, we're looking at order of operations. And the order of operations are pretty important here because we need to make sure that when we look at a situation, we know, are we supposed to do addition before multiplication? Are we supposed to do exponents first? What are we supposed to do? Because obviously if there's numerous steps in an equation, it's important that we do them in the proper order. So the little adage that we have over here, we talk about the idea of PEMDAS. Okay? You also might hear the term, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And that helps us remember some of this stuff. Okay? But PEMDAS, when you talk about what all the letters mean, keep in mind that the P stands for parentheses. And basically that's any kind of grouping symbols. That might be parentheses that look like that. It might be brackets. It could be absolute value symbols. So instead of just saying parentheses, we're talking about all grouping symbols. So anytime you see any kind of a grouping symbol, that's the very first thing that you want to do. If it's parentheses, brackets, absolute value, that's where you want to start. The E, you might remember, is my exponents. So after you handle all the parentheses, the next thing that you want to do is you want to take care of all your exponents. So if you see 5 to the second power, that's the next thing that you would like to do. Then we come down to the M and the D. And what you want to keep in mind is these have the same preference. So we're talking about multiplication, and we're talking about division. And what you want to do is if a question has multiplication and division in it, you always want to work left to right. You're not going to do all the multiplication and then all the division. It doesn't work that way. If you have multiplication and division and reading left to right, division comes first, then you're going to want to go ahead and do the division first. And I'll show you an example of that. If the question is 5 times 2 divided by 4, I do the multiplication first. If on the other hand, the question had been 5 divided by 2 times 4, or times 2, I still work left to right. In this case, the division comes before the multiplication. So these two letters are interchangeable. You always want to work left to right. But you do want to do all your multiplication and division before you do your addition and subtraction. But my addition and subtraction have the same exact idea. So my A stands for addition, and my S stands for subtraction. And that works the exact same way that multiplication and division do. In that you don't do all your addition and then all your subtraction. If your addition comes first, you do it first. If your subtraction comes first, you do that first. So if you have a question that looks like this, you would add first. But if the question looks like this, even though the A comes first, you still do your subtraction. So let's go and do the examples. Let's look at the very first example. 16 plus 4 times 2 minus 3. If I go to my order of operations, the first thing that I'm going to do is my multiplication. Try not to skip too many steps, especially in the beginning while you get used to this. 4 times 2 is 8. It's going to help you not miss things, not skip things. Well, now I come down to plus and minus, addition and subtraction. Well, in this case, I want to work left to right. Addition comes first, so I do that first. So I get 24. Now I worry about my subtraction of 3, and that's where I get my final answer. But the key is I did the multiplication first, because that was earlier in my PEMDAS, earlier in my order of operations. Let's jump down to number 5, a little farther down the page. Let's look at an example that has a fraction bar in it. Keep in mind that a fraction bar is basically nothing more than a division. In this particular case, this fraction bar does indicate grouping. What you want to do is you want to simplify the top first, simplify the bottom, and then worry about putting them together. So I see 7 times 4 on top, I get 28. On the bottom, I look here, I have an exponent first. So I do that. I do my addition. Then I subtract my 1. And now I worry about doing my division. In this case, it's just simply a fraction. I simplify my fraction. So my answer in this case is 1/2.